2013 speech, Joe Biden said, "Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value." From the very beginning, when it was proposed for Victoria Park in Kitchener, the Prime Minister's Statues project has been described as educational. When the plan was announced in November 2013, the Waterloo Region Record reported that it would cost $2 million. CreateScape Waterloo Region told the Record that a curriculum program would also be developed for teachers. CreateScape co-founder Jim Roger appeared as a delegation at the July 13, 2020 council meeting, speaking as a member of the Prime Minister's Path Committee. He described aspects of the educational program, including some of the curriculum's details. He also mentioned pursuing grant funding from various levels of government to finance that program. He said, is the educational component of the Prime Minister's Path complete? Obviously not, but it continues to develop to the extent donated financial resources allow. Mr. Rogers' presentation gave the impression that his organisation was responsible for overseeing the teaching resources. He was interviewed for an article about the SJAM statue in the September 16th issue of Maclean's magazine. Talking about the educational aspects of the project, he said, "This isn't a big town, there isn't tons of money, and that's a horrible excuse. The development of those resources lags behind what's here." That, plus another interview in the Christian Science Monitor, further cemented the idea that CreateScape is funding and developing the educational resources. That perception changed last month. The supplementary agreement that is before Council this evening was first included as part of the agenda package for the October 5th Council meeting. It refers to the original agreement, a contract between CreateScape and the Township that was signed in May 2016. I reviewed the meeting minutes from May 2016 to the end of that year, and the contract is not referred to nor included in any of those documents. This means it was never presented in a council meeting and therefore had never been made available to the public. On Sunday, October 4th, I asked the clerk to include the original agreement in the agenda package for the following day's meeting, which she did on Monday morning. 4.5 years after it was signed, this was the first time that this contract was presented to Wilmot's residents. It was the first time that the responsibilities for each of the two parties was mentioned. Section B, Clause 7 of the original agreement stipulates, "The Township shall oversee the development and ongoing operation of an educational program that is accessible to the public with respect to the PM statues, that is of a quality that meets public expectations. The Township will not be obligated to assume any costs incurred by other parties that may be involved in or contributing to the content or platform for educational programming." At no time during any of this year's public discussions regarding the Prime Minister's Path has the Township clarified that it is responsible for producing the educational resources. Presumably, this involves staff time. Does that not represent a cost to the Township? At the October 5th meeting, resident John Bailey pointed out that there was at least one section missing from the original agreement that was being shown to the public, and that council was being asked to vote on. This evening's report from the clerk mentions that Don Bourgeois, a lawyer who signed the contract on behalf of CreateScape, recalled seeing an earlier draft of the document that included the missing portion, so he proceeded to sign this incomplete version anyway. The report also says that the copy of the original agreement that Mr. Bourgeois received had already been signed by Mayor Armstrong and the previous clerk. All three parties signed a legally binding document that was known to be incomplete. Tonight's report includes that missing text, which consists of just 15 words. If this is in fact all that had been left out of the contract, why not correct the document before it was signed? What was the rush? The clerk's report today, which is an addendum to the staff report from a month ago, discusses the nature of the PM Path's educational program. It says, from a Township perspective, the educational program is a collection of resources available for people who wish to visit the Prime Minister's Path. It adds, the educational value of the statues and the Prime Minister's Path as a whole is an entirely subjective opinion and not a legislated matter, regardless of the title prescribed in the project. In January 2016, Wilfrid Laurier University rejected this project after an extensive consultation process. In its final report, Laurier's Special Advisory Committee was emphatic in its assessment that the Prime Minister's Statues project, quote, doesn't provide opportunities for the intellectual inquiry and critical reflection necessary to understand the full context of the individuals. That review of the pedagogical value of the PM Path is the conclusion of an internationally renowned educational establishment. That's not a subjective opinion. In April 2016, the Township's clerk at the time said of the Statues project, it's an artistic endeavour. We felt there was no need to bring in the negativity of the past. I would encourage people to read more, because maybe those people had some faults, but they also had achievements. This evening's report says, the agreement clearly states that the educational programme resources are the responsibility of the municipality for development and ongoing operation. To develop the resources in-house would require additional resources at a cost to the municipality. As the relationship with Nipissing University exists today, there are no costs for the municipality, nor is the township obligated to assume any of those costs. That statement raises several issues. First, why did CreateScape relinquish the educational components of its flagship project to the township? What changed between their original plan in 2013 and the original agreement in 2016? Second, why did the township think it was capable of overseeing the development of an educational program on this scale when it has no previous experience of doing so? In recent months, delegations have appeared before council to suggest that the statues belong in a museum where they can be part of an in-depth study of Canada's prime ministers. Does the township believe that a municipality is more capable of educating the public about history than a museum would be? Questioning from councillors at the October 5th meeting revealed that members of the township's senior management team sit on the PM Path Advisory Committee. If CreateScape has been lobbying various levels of government for educational programme funding, is any of that money being used to compensate the township for the many hours of senior staff time that has been dedicated to this project? Near the end of the section about educational programmes in this evening's report, it says this: currently, the resources are available on the township website. While CreateScape has already raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Prime Minister's Path, the township has said that it doesn't plan on spending a single dime on it. In 2016, former clerk said, "We are not spending taxpayers' dollars, we are just providing the space." It appears that the purpose of CreateScape's $2 million statues is to encourage people to visit a free website, the educational merit of which, according to the township, is subjective. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value. The township's handling of this project has been shrouded in secrecy and confusion since the beginning. In 2016, the township decided not to reveal the details of a legally binding contract that commits the municipality to the task of developing an educational program for which it has no experience. 4.5 years after the contract was signed, and following requests by residents, that contract was finally released for public review. This revealed that it was missing a section, but the township chose to sign it anyway. Now we're told by a third party that an earlier draft included the missing text, but we aren't being shown a copy of that previous version, merely a quote from it. Time apparently was so pressing in 2016 that the 3 signatories decided to proceed, rather than reinstate 15 missing words. Learning about the activities of our local government shouldn't be this exhausting. It shouldn't require months and months of inquiries and council meetings for the public to get to the facts. While the township might argue that it has met its legal obligations, it has most definitely failed in its duty to be engaging and transparent. It requires the will of the municipality to be open to public scrutiny, but it also takes a conscious effort to hide the truth. Thank you. I'm open to any questions council might have, as well as any answers that you may wish to provide.
Thank you. Anyone have questions of the delegation? Councillor Fenning?
Sorry, my hand was up because I had other comments before this. It's not related to the delegation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if I still have time left, may I ask a question of the CAO?
You're here for a presentation, but I don't think there's a necessity for that. That's something that you can do tomorrow. Yeah, but we will allow it to happen.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Whittington. As I mentioned in my presentation, Don Bourgeois is a lawyer and he was representing CreateScape. In 2016, did the township seek any legal advice from a lawyer who represents the interests of the township of Wilmot during negotiations for the original agreement?
Mr. Whittington?
Through the worship, that is what we're trying to investigate to see if there was any reach out. I personally did not, but that doesn't mean the clerk didn't.
Okay, but you're So you're seeking the answer for that then?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, did you say that you're seeking the answer for that then, to clarify?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so sorry, I missed part of the meeting while I was trying to connect. Okay, thank you.